Assalamu alaikum everyone, this is Ayman Nazir and welcome to Knowledge Realm. So viewers, in the previous video we studied the French and Indian War that started in 1754 and ended in 1763. We studied that how English people fought against French people and how English ousted French people from the continent of America. But we did not study that what impact this war created on the America and what changes America faced after this war. Well, definitely this war created a great impact on the continent of America, and America was changed after this war. And in this video we would study those changes. We would study the social, political and economic condition of America after this war. So stay focused and let's get started. Before studying the impacts of this 7 years war on North America, first let's just recall a little bit about this war. Well, the 7 years war or the French and Indian War was the last major conflict between English and French in North America. This war was also called the First World War. Why? Because at that time people were fighting in Europe, India and North America. So we can say that yes, almost all the world was engulfed in war at the time, because the three main continents, America, Europe and Asia, these three continents were engulfed in war. So this war was also called First World War. But that's not our scope. We just studied the French and Indian War that was fought in North America at the time, and we studied this in the previous video, the 7 years war or the French and Indian War. If any of you is interested in studying this war, you can definitely go to the channel and the playlist History of USA and you can watch the video on this war. Well, the France made alliance with Spain and fought against British and Prussia, and the North American theater of the war was called French and Indian War. This is the war that we studied in the previous video. French and English forces fought amongst each other with their native allies. French people made coalition with Wabanaki Confederacy, and English people made alliance with Iroquois. So these people fought among each other. French people, English people, they were fighting, and British won the war and became the only colonial masters of America. So this was a brief introduction and about the French and Indian War. Now let's just study that what were the impacts of this war on North America. So the first impact created by the French and Indian War on America and Britain also was heavy debt due to war. I have explained this in the previous video that Prime Minister William Pitt, he borrowed money to finance the war, and this borrowed money accumulated debt on the British Empire. By the end of the war, the national debt stood at 147 million euros. Now, this was a thing that created anxiety in the British Empire. And to reduce the accumulated debt, the British Empire imposed heavy taxes on colonies. Prime Minister George Grenville, he imposed taxes on colonies to reduce the debt accumulated due to war. Several acts were passed, such as Sugar Act of 1764, Quartering Act of 1765 and Stamp Act of 1765. And these acts were imposed to generate revenue from these colonies to reduce the debt accumulated by the British Empire due to war. Now, what was this Sugar Act? First of all, let's study the Sugar Act of 1764. Well, this Sugar Act said that the North American colonies would import sugar from British, and these colonies would pay a tax, a heavy tax on the sugar imported from British Empire. Now this was just an effort to accumulate money and to generate revenue from the colonies so that the British Empire could reduce its debt. Then the second act, Quartering Act of 1765. Now this act was actually about sheltering and feeding the British soldiers in North America. This act said that the people of North America who the people of colonies, English colonies in North America, these people would shelter and these people would feed the soldiers of British Empire. The British Empire claimed that we have deployed these troops in your colonies to provide safety and to provide security. These people are there for your safety. So you would shelter them and you would provide food to them. This was once again to cut the expenses of British Empire and to generate revenue. Now this was very disturbing act, and the people of North America, they were not ready to feed and to provide shelter to these soldiers. Then the Stamp Act of 1765. Well, Weaver's Stamp Act of 1765 was the most disturbing, and this was an act that kicked a severe storm of protest in North America. What was this act about? Well, this act required the printing on a stamped paper, and this stamp posed heavy taxes on the people of North America. This act said that from now on all the printing would be on a paper that would be stamped by the British Empire, and this stamp would impose tax on the people of North America. Now this was very disturbing and not good for the people of North America. North America did not accept these kind of acts, and they retaliated. They started protesting. Then viewers, these imposed taxes created a social unrest in North America. People of North America were not happy with these imposed taxes and they started protesting against these acts. Sugar Act, Quartering Act and Stamp Act. I have explained these acts in the previous slide. So these people started protesting, and John Dickinson of Pennsylvania, he wrote Declaration of Rights and Grievances, in which he wrote about these taxes and how these taxes are unfair, and he wrote about all these things. Then in 1765 in New York City, delegates from colonies held a meeting. There they discussed that how these taxes are unfair and how British Empire should not just extract all the money from the North American colonies, and how British Empire is unfair towards the North American colonies. Then organizations such as Son of Liberty and Daughter of Liberties were formed in 1765, and several riots occurred in North American colonies. Then, owing to this social unrest, in 1766, Stamp Act was repealed. Then viewers, all this unrest and all these protests created a rift between colonists and the crown. British elite believed that they had bore more than the colonists and they are paying heavy taxes. And on the other hand, colonists, they believed that they had done more because their sons died fighting for British Empire. So this thing created a rift between colonists and the crown. The people who were living in Europe under British Empire, they were not ready to pay for the debt accumulated by the British Empire for the war, and the colonists who were living in the America, they were also not ready to pay for the accumulated debt. They said that we have fought this war, our sons died in this war fighting, we were fighting for British Empire, and now British Empire wants us to pay for the war also. The British Empire wants to extract all the money, and British Empire want to put all the burden on the colonies. So this thing created a rift between colonists and the crown. Henry Petrick, who was a young boy from Virginia, he stood in the House of Burgesses and railed against London and the Parliament. Taxes without representation in Parliament was creating tensions in America. Now this was the argument of the people of America. They said that we have no representation in the Parliament of British Empire in Europe. So British Empire does not have any right to tax the colonies. We do not have any representation in Parliament. So why British Empire is taxing the colonies? Now this was the thing that created tensions in America. Another positive impact of French and Indian War on America was the unity among the colonists. This thing united the colonists. This thing united the colonies of North America. To defend themselves from French, English colonizers got united in 1754. And in 1754, they held a meeting in Albany, and they decided that we would defend ourselves, and common defense was advocated, and a plan of union was proposed by Benjamin Franklin. So these colonies got united. This was the impact of French and Indian War on America. Another impact, idea of creation of continental government. Students, this was advised by Benjamin Franklin in the meeting in Albany in June 1754. Well, delegates met in Albany in June 1754 to devise a plan for defense against French, because at that time the North American English people of North America, they were fighting against French. So Benjamin Franklin, he proposed that why not just create a continental government. So the war between French and English in America, this led to this idea of creation of continental government. This was another impact of French and Indian War on America. Then another impact, more troops were deployed in America to guard the newly won territory. After the conflict between the Indian tribes, the English Parliament decided to keep a standing army of 10,000 troops in America to maintain order, and this was a thing that was not liked by the people of North America. Another problem faced by the English colonizers in North America, Native Americans in their territories were furious. Well, I've explained this several times that Native Americans were in coalition with the French people, and when French people were ousted from the America, Native Americans were not happy. The Indians, who were loyal with their French masters, were not happy with English taking over their land. They demanded English to treat them with the French policies, and in summer of 1763, the Indians fought under the Ottawa chief Pontiac. They were not happy that their masters have been ousted from their land, and now we have new masters, English masters, and English were not as good as the French with the people of America, the Native Americans. So the Native Americans, they started fighting with their new masters, and in 1763 they fought under the Ottawa chief Pontiac. Then another problem, administration of newly won territories. This was a task. British Empire was under huge debt at the time, and there were conflicts between Native Americans and British colonies. So this was a task, and a challenging task for the colonists of North America. Then another thing, Proclamation of 1763 was issued. Now, this proclamation forbade colonists to expand beyond the Appalachian Mountain to pacify the Indian tribes. We have studied in the previous slide that the Native Americans who were ruled by French before this war, they were not happy with this war, and they were not happy with Treaty of Paris of 1763. So to pacify them, the British Empire passed this proclamation of 1763, and this proclamation forbade colonists to expand beyond the Appalachian Mountain to pacify the Indian tribes. Here on the map you can see this. This right here is the proclamation line of 1763, and the colonists were not allowed to expand beyond this line. They were not allowed to expand their settlements here. Now this was the thing that that was not liked by the British colonists. It infuriated the colonists, and they rejected the proclamation. They said that we have fought this war and we have won this territory, and we suffered, and we endured a lot in this war, and now we are not allowed to go to this territory that we have won. So this proclamation was rejected by colonists. Then the most important impact of French and Indian War. It sowed the seeds of revolution and independence. Viewers, we have studied that how these colonies got united, how these colonies fought against the French Empire, and how these colonies defeated the French Empire. So this thing sowed the seeds of revolution and independence. It increased the morale of English colonizers, and after this war, the English colonizers fought with their mother country and they got independence in 1776. These people were infuriated. These people were not happy with their mother country. These people were not happy with the several tax huge tax imposed on the English colonizers. So it sowed the seeds of revolution. They believed that we have no representation in the British Parliament and the British Parliament is imposing tax on us. This is unfair. This thing caused agitation in the English people, in the English colonizers, and they started believing that why not just get rid of this British crown and why not just make our own state and our sovereign empire, our own sovereign government. So all these impacts sowed the seeds of revolution and independence, and we would study in the future that how these English people of North America got independence from the British crown. We would study American Revolution in future, and we would study the War of Independence, and I assure you that all of you would enjoy that topic also. So this is the end of this lecture today. We have studied the French and Indian War. First we would study all the events of French and Indian War. We studied that how the English people got independence and how English people ousted the French people from the American continent. Then we studied the impacts of this war on America. So we have covered this topic in detail. I hope all of you enjoyed this. This is the end of this lecture. Thank you so much and Allah Hafiz. And don't forget to subscribe the channel Knowledge Realm. Don't forget to like this video and don't forget to comment on this video. Thank you and Allah Hafiz.